Hello and welcome to the Forces Sports Show, your weekly roundup of the best action and biggest stories from across the services, coming up in the next half hour. The Army go into the third round of the Challenge Cup, but there's heartbreak for the RAF. Mud, sweat and cheers, action from the Inter-Services Cross Country, and the military men and women who are on their way to the Winter Paralympics. The Army are into the third round of Rugby League's Challenge Cup, but to make it that far they had to get through an action-packed game against the London Chargers in Aldershot. The Army enjoyed the best possible start in their second-round clash against London Chargers. Scott Bradley's brute strength carried him over the visitors' line for an unconverted try, putting his team 4-0 up inside 2 minutes. The home side were given the chance to extend their lead, as Chargers man James Hutchison was penalised for tackling his opponent from an offside position. Mikey Hoyle was on target from the tee to add 2 points for a 6-0 advantage. Minutes later, the Army sliced through the Chargers' defence with some ease. Hoyle cantered in for the try, which, uncharacteristically, he failed to convert, but they were now 10 points to the good. However, the London side hit back as perhaps the smallest player on the pitch, Eric Sims, squeezed over for a converted try to make the score 10-6. Now the visitors were in control. Simple passing along the line gave Sam Squire the chance to sprint to the line. The winger had plenty to do, but crashed over to level the scores with an unconverted try. But there was still time for the Army to edge back in front before the end of the first half. Matty Scott scampered under the posts for a converted try as the Army went to the sheds 16-10 in front. It was the capital-based side who started brightly after the break. Shane Picker prodded the ball past his opposite number and Chris Martin plucked it out of the sky for an unconverted score. That would be the last time the Chargers troubled the scoreboard. Instead, the Army confirmed their place in round 3 with a couple of tries, the first from Lawrence Hamzet. And then skipper George Clark flopped over for a converted try. A final score of 26 points to 14 as the Army continue their Challenge Cup run, much to their head coach's delight.
I think it's just the bond of the players now. I think we just need to, use all this energy, right, and just bring that to the third round.
That's the 5th time the Army have made it through to the third round. They're now away to tough opposition in the shape of Cumbrian side Kells next weekend. They were the 2015 National Conference Premier League champions. That's the top amateur level of the game in England. Meanwhile, the RAF are still waiting to make the third round for the first time. They suffered heartbreak in their second round clash against Batley Boys, losing out to an extra time golden drop goal.
What all hurt so much for the Light Blues was that they'd fought back brilliantly from 12-0 down with just 5 minutes to go. The home side had led with 2 converted tries from Bingham and Knowles, but then the RAF fight back, rewarded for playing football despite the desperate situation they were in, and it was Jake Starbuck who seized his chance to score with Elliot Kerry's conversion for 12-6. Before, Nathan Baker made the most of some hesitation in the home defence to score. The conversion from Elliot Kerry, levelling the match right on the final whistle. But in extra time, up popped Adam Bingham, who'd scored on the Batley Boys' tries with the drop goal that seized the match and broke RAF hearts.
Amanda Lightfoot of the Adjutant General's Corps has been in action at the Winter Olympics. Lightfoot finished 73rd in the women's 15-kilometre individual biathlon at the Games in Pyeongchang. Earlier in the week, she was 67th in the 7.5k sprint event. Meanwhile, the RAF's Rhys Thornbury finished 14th in the men's skeleton. Thornbury, competing for New Zealand, was as high as 7th after the third heat, but slipped out of the top 10 on the 4th run. It's the turn of the Winter Paralympians in Pyeongchang next month. 5 military athletes will be part of the Great Britain team. 3 of them will race as guides, and with one from each service, there's set to be some tri-service rivalry, as Kath found out.
So Gary Smith in bid number 3, currently 130.
As it turns out, the slopes of Meribel have proved to be the perfect training ground for a trio of Forces skiers. RAF Corporal Gary Smith competing here at the Inter-Services Snow Sports Championships last year. Now he's on the brink of his first Paralympics, guiding reigning Super G champion Kelly Gallagher.
Oh, it was amazing when we actually heard the news, but we just carried on every day putting everything into it because we didn't want to just take that away from our focus. So yeah, we put everything into training, and yeah, to get that email to say we were selected was brilliant, and then go to the games and build off Kelly's experience and results from last time.
After a serious crash last season, Gary and Kelly endured an agonising selection wait, but it was finally confirmed last week and they are in good company. Brett Wild from the Royal Navy guides Millie Knight and Army Captain Jen Kehoe guides Menna Fitzpatrick. The prospect of some inter-services rivalry isn't lost on any of them.
To be honest, to have all 3 military guides representing tri-service competition is awesome, and obviously the ultimate goal will be to have a podium, a full British podium, and we've got that opportunity now, and so that's great to have everyone on board.
At the recent World Cup in Canada, Jen and Menna grabbed gold. The hope now is that all the athletes will be hitting their best at the right time.
We're feeling quite confident. We've had a really good camp just in Canada last week. We're still trying to come back from this concussion last year, but I think we're finally getting back to where we know we can be, and we're back in the mix. So we're just hoping we can peak at the Paralympics and get back to where we think we belong.
Away from the alpine disciplines, there are 2 GB firsts. Former soldier and single-leg amputee Owen Pick is one of 3 riders who'll make up the first ever GB snowboard team at a Winter Paralympics. And then there's Scott Mina, who lost both his legs to an IED. He'll now compete in Para-Nordic skiing, the first Brit in 20 years to do so.
Hi, big man. Buddy. How's it going? Hey, bro. What's happening? Good. Yeah, how you been?
The pair are old friends and, not surprisingly, spent time at Headley Court together.
Every time we see each other, it's, oh, dude, how you doing? Big hugs. And it's nice to see us kind of start that process of being injured together. And now we're both going to the same games, which is just incredible, you know, and none of us had really planned it. It's just kind of happened.
We're so lucky to be here. You know, they call us unequivocal saves or unexpected survivors with the injuries that we received. So to be here and to be smashing life feels amazing. And I think that that's what leads you to the highest stages in sport, is the fact that every single day you want to challenge the rules, you want to challenge the barriers and be a better version of yourself every single day.
Scott's selection was the final piece in the Paralympics GB jigsaw as the squad aim for a target of 7 medals in Pyeongchang.
We've got military athletes, we've got non-military athletes, we've got returning Paralympians, we've got debutants. It's a nice mix, and I think that we held a games readiness workshop with all of the athletes about a year ago, and it started to build the team really early in the cycle. So we fast forward a year and we're 22 days to go to the games, but the team already feels like a team, and whether it be the curlers talking to the skiers or Scott just talks to everyone, it feels like we've got a really cohesive team. Everybody's got everybody else's back, everybody's rooting for each other, checking on how preparation's going, and it's just an honour to be part of this particular Paralympics GB team.
The athletes will be heading to South Korea over the next couple of weeks. Action gets underway on the 9th of March.
The Army men and women have taken the titles at this year's Inter-Services Squash Team Championships. Meanwhile, the RAF claimed the under-25s prize in Aldershot. With this season's individual inter-service titles already decided, this 2-day tournament in Aldershot would determine the team prizes in the final tri-services outing of the year. The men's tournament featured a senior service side hoping to record only their second crown in 55 years after taking top spot 12 months ago. However, TJ Walters came unstuck against the Army's Luke Doddington.
10-3.
After a tight encounter, it was the Royal Armoured Corps Major who won the match 3-2 to give the Army a bright start. Unfortunately for the Navy, they lost their second match too. It was down to Matt Ellicott to keep his team in the tournament. Hampered by injury, Ellicott would retire from the fray against the Army's #1 Sam Miller, who won the opening 2 games to clinch overall victory for the Army, with the Air Force finishing third.
The Army were gunning for us. They really had the bit between the teeth to take the title back off us, and credit to them. They pulled out the right team on the day and pipped us to the post. So, you know, a pretty well contested match all the way down the strings. We gave it our best and just wasn't enough on the day.
We lost to the Royal Navy last year. They had a better performance than us, probably a stronger team, and deserved it. So it's good to get our revenge.
Yeah, how much did it hurt losing last year?
It always hurts losing. I mean, I think that we could have done better as a team while we played it, and I think that was one of the key elements that we wanted to address this year. You never mind, in a way, losing to the better team on the day. There's nothing you can do about that. So as long as we put in a good performance, you know, we knew we stood a chance.
The women's competition saw the RAF push the Army all the way. Locked at 2 matches each, it came down to Jen Spencer from the Army taking on RAF Northolt-based Annabelle Bacon. Spencer took the match in 4 games, much to her delight.
Yeah, I was a bit nervous. There was a lot of pressure on this game. Being the 5th set, this was the decider. And the Army was very keen to win across the board, so I knew there was pressure on.
What was it like for you going in, you know, with that expectation perhaps on those shoulders that it was down to you to come away with victory?
Yeah, I just knew I needed to go on and have a really good game, play my best, and I think that's all anyone asks, as long as you try your hardest.
Jen played really well, and she was a tough opponent. She hits the ball really well, really cleanly. It was really tricky to get back. I did have a last effort in the last few games where I thought I might have been able to win it back a bit, but I'm proud of the way I didn't end too badly, but just wasn't quite enough in the end.
Meanwhile, the RAF claimed the under-25s title, with Lossiemouth lad Ricky Santamaria winning it for the Light Blues as they edged out the Army. Still to come. Rugby union action from the Army's match against the British Police and how the Navy's latest game was sunk. Before that, there was a tough lesson for the Army's women on Wednesday. They suffered an 8-try demolition against the England under-20s in Aldershot. England women's under-20s overcame the conditions and overpowered their Army hosts to run in 8 tries in their annual meeting in Aldershot. Worcester winger Brooke Clark showed off her sprinting skills on the way to the line. As the Army struggled to get a foothold in the game, the junior Red Roses displayed enough evidence to suggest the women's game has a bright future. Phoebe Murray blitzed her way home for a 10-0 lead. England continued to exploit the Army's defensive frailties. Scrum half Tasmin Bricknell put teammate Clark in the clear for her 2nd try of the night. Saracens prop Eleanor Perry was next on the score sheet, slicing through would-be tacklers, putting her side 20 points to the good. With the Army spending the majority of the match deep in their own half, it was no surprise to see England at a 5th try. Bristol winger Lillian Stoger-Goddard having the simple task of sliding in to score. There was still time before the break for Clark to complete her hat-trick of tries. One of 9 sisters, she seemed on a mission, certain to score for each of her siblings. A much improved effort from the Army in the second half restricted England to just 2 further tries. Murray capped her under-20s debut with a 2nd, ghosting in for a converted effort. Michaela Roberts concluded the try scoring. The Loughborough Lightning player galloped to the line to complete the convincing win. Not since the Fran Cotton era has an England front row forward emerged quite so caked in mud. So a comprehensive victory for the visitors as the Army remain upbeat for the remainder of this season.
What a great try for England, young Roses there.
We stick together as a squad, so there won't be any point now where we'd let anyone drop their heads, because there were mistakes from 1 to 23, but then there were things positives to pull from that as well. So we'll focus on both moving forward, but hopefully we'll build from here.
Of course, you'll have to pick yourselves up because you've got another international fixture coming up against the Barbarians.
We do. It's great to have the Barbarians here. Obviously, it'll be their 2nd game this season, so. We always expect something fancy from the Barbarians, so it's great to see what they throw at us, and also how we can adapt to play against them. So we know that we'll go away now and look at the footage and see what we can do to build.
The Army face the Barbarians at home on the 17th of March. The Royal Navy's game against Cambridge University turned into a three-way fight with the weather. At 0-0, after an hour, that one was abandoned. The Army were also in action. They were up against the British Police at East London Rugby Club. The sides managed one try each, with number 8, Miller, scoring for the Reds. The Army came through, eventually with a 19-5 win. The RAF enjoyed the 2018 Inter-Services Cross Country Championships. They took all but one of the titles on offer at Minley. John was there.
Difficult conditions for all the athletes today, with the senior men and veterans taking on 10 kilometres and the women and under-23 6Ks round the Gibraltar Barracks course. The RAF women looked especially strong from the off, led by Tamsin Rutter, aiming for her first individual inter-services title. And she came home first, but the rest of the women's competition was very tight indeed. And it was the Army who came through to take the women's team victory, led by Rosie Wild and Roseanne Vickers.
There's a lot of enthusiasm for running, and a lot of junior girls coming through as well, which is really good to see.
OK, and good competition from the RAF today as well.
It's always good competition from the RAF, but the Army ladies came out on top today, which is yeah, a really great result.
But that would be their only success of the day, as the RAF were dominant in all the other disciplines, the Masters, Under-23 and the senior men's race. The veterans title went to Corporal Kieran White, Paul Vernon second and Dan Lewis in third place. It was a similar story of RAF domination in the Under-23s race, with Will Garner, the top runner, leading the way for the RAF.
First 2 miles tough, and the last mile was on like gravel tracks, so spikes weren't great, but yeah, just had to dig it out, tough it out for the win.
You'd be well up for getting involved with the seniors.
Yeah, definitely. It's my next challenge next year. Hopefully get into the senior team for the inter-service, and then hopefully place in the top 6.
It was a very strong entry in the seniors race, but again dominated by the Air Force runners in their centenary year. Mike Callenberg led in 4 RAF runners, including Ben Livesey, to the top 5 places. The RAF very much in the ascendancy.
The main thing today, the main aim was the team. So I just wanted to come out and score as best I could for the team.
And as you say, in your centenary year, so important for the RAF team to come out on top.
Yeah, definitely. It's a big year. We're hoping. I mean, the girls had an awesome race. I think they just missed out on the team prize, but the juniors have won today for the first time in I don't know how long. So yeah, it's great for all the athletes, men and women, to be doing so well on this special year.
The UK Armed Forces selectors will now be choosing a joint military team to compete at the major British and International Championships at Woollerton Park in Nottingham next month. And because of the closeness of results, there'll be RAF, Army and Navy runners included.
Corporal Stuart Hill will make his Commonwealth Games debut for Northern Ireland in April. The shooter from One Royal Irish is one of 3 athletes from the Troops to Target team to make it to the Games on Australia's Gold Coast. Introduced to target rifle shooting during his time in cadets as a teenager, Stuart Hill displayed early sharp-eyed promise. He went as far as shooting on the junior international scene with Northern Ireland. Joining the military as a career meant he took a prolonged sabbatical from shooting as a sport. That was until his unit, One Royal Irish, encouraged him to join the Army's Troops to Target programme. With money handed to the Army in gratitude by Group 4 Security after the London 2012 Games, when the military provided security cover, now invested in many of its sporting teams, the Army's Troops to Target initiative is proving a hit. Now the young corporal is converting his nous as a youngster onto the big stage. He's one of 3 Army shooters to be picked for this year's Commonwealth Games. Although he had experience as a junior athlete, Stuart admits the step up to elite level is significant.
Yeah, it's a lot more different this time. It's a lot more serious this time, and it's a lot more pressure on to try and get medals and shoot personal bests and beat other guys who are on the programme with me who are going for the same sport. So.
What is it about this sport that you think that soldiers excel at? Why are there so many soldiers and servicemen coming through at this particular discipline?
Patience is one of the main things. You need to be very patient with it. OCD, the Army gives you quite a high level of OCD. And just being on top of your kit. You need to maintain your kit really well to keep it to as accurate as you possibly can. And that's why I think we succeed, because you're on top of all those things on a daily basis, and that just makes life simple.
Stuart will compete in 2 events, the 50-metre prone and the men's 3-position shooting, which includes standing, kneeling and the prone position. He went to the pre-games event in Australia last autumn and says that was vital preparation.
It was good. It was good to get the conditions in, get used to the temperatures, humidity, you know, just get sort of settled in, make sure the body's resting at the right temperatures, get everything ironed out, then needed to iron out a few questions I wanted to ask when I was out there. Got all those sorted, so now I'm ready to go and deliver the goods.
And the Army have been backing you all the way, not just your unit, but the Troops to Target scheme as well.
Yeah, so my unit have been great. They've released me for the last 2.5 years without any qualms. We're just trying to return them with medals now and again. It's quite good, and just support them every way I can with shooting and everything else that they require. And then the Troops to Target program's been great. You know, they give you the time to train, which is about 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. And then that's on top of strength and conditioning and everything else. So it's a really good setup, it's a really good programme, and that's why people are starting to excel, because we've got the support network that we've needed.
Stuart, along with fellow Army athlete, boxer Alana Nihel and former Royal Air Force pilot and shooting squad member David Calvert, will be part of Northern Ireland's largest team to compete at the Games in Australia. That is it for this week's show. Don't forget you can catch up with previous programmes on the Forces Sports Show YouTube channel and with the very latest at forces.net/sport. In the meantime, let's relive the Army's advance into the next round of the Challenge Cup. That came thanks to a fierce performance against the London Chargers.